I wish I suddenly discovered I had powers. So Raising Dion is the newest Netflix original series based off a comic book that came out in 2015 by Dennis Liu, and this is me with the original comic book. And it tells the story of a black woman named Nicole Warren, played by Alicia Wainwright, raising her 8-year-old child, Dion Warren, played by Josiah Young, after the death of her husband, Mark Warren, played by Michael Bay Jordan. And just like most parents believe that their child is special, well, it turns out Dion really is special because she discovers that her son has incredible supernatural powers. And now she must help Dion figure out not only how to control his powers, but to keep his powers a secret from those that may try to hurt him, while also discovering where these powers came from. When Netflix first announced that they were doing this as a live action television series, I was very excited because, like I showed you before, when the original comic came out, I got it. And unfortunately, and I'm not sure what the reason is, but they only did one issue of the comic book. You didn't really know what the full story was going to be. So then the fact that they were going to adapt into a TV series, I was like, great, I'm in. Especially considering it's about a black kid with powers, a black kid being the chosen one, a black kid being the most powerful one in the room. That's not something that you really get in comic books, movies, TV shows, video games. Really, you don't really get that anywhere. And I'm not saying that you don't have black characters in sci-fi fantasy shows. Yes, you do. But you don't get black kids or black people being the lead in sci-fi fantasy shows. The one that the story is about, the one that's driving the narrative, the one that's the chosen one, the one that's the most powerful one in the room. So that's the thing that really drew me to this comic book in the first place. And so with that, this series gives a lot of black love and a lot of black cultural call-outs in the series, in that it's shot in Atlanta. There's some HBCU love in this series, where Michael B. Jordan's character went to Morehouse College and his wife, Alicia Wright's character, went to Spelman. This show also throws some references to Alvin Ailey. This show also deals with issues of racism and how black kids are usually perceived worse than white kids. So there's just a lot of references and things within black culture and things that black people have to deal with that I really enjoyed, because you don't really see that much, especially when it comes to sci-fi fantasy shows. And then of course, like I said before, this show has Michael Bay Jordan. In case you didn't know, the B in Michael B. Jordan stands for Bay, because he's mine. Michael B. Jordan. Good God Almighty, great balls of fire. I also really enjoyed Jason Ritter's character, Pat. Like, he brought a lot of levity and humor to the show, and he was a very interesting character to watch, and I enjoyed every time he would show up on screen, and the cute moments that he would have with Dion and even with Nicole, and I just enjoyed his character overall. How to say this without delving into spoiler territory, but all I'm gonna say is I really wasn't that big of a fan of what they ended up doing with Pat's character, and I kind of feel like it came out of nowhere. Also, I can't do this review without mentioning Sammy Hanley's character, who plays Esperanza, who's Dion's best friend. I loved her character, and hopefully season 2 we get to see a little bit more of her going forward. Something else that I was pretty intrigued by was the lore and the mystery that this show set up, and what happened to Mark's character. Like, how did he die? How did Dion get his powers? Where did these powers come from? And the slow unraveling to basically solve that conundrum. With that said though, even though there was a lot of things that I did like about this series, there were a lot of things I also did not like about this series. More so, a lot of it had to do with the acting. I know the actor Josiah Young, who plays Dion, is a kid. I'm not expecting him to be Meryl Streep level, but at the same time, I've seen some very good kid actors, and I was not a fan of Dion's acting, especially from the first episode. A lot of it felt fake. A lot of it felt like he was saying lines of dialogue and not actually emoting and being a character, and a lot of it did feel over the top. I had to forgive most of it, but in many instances, Dion came across as very annoying, a character that I didn't really like at first, and I had to think about it even more, because I was like, to be perfectly honest, he's a 7-year-old kid. Of course he's going to be annoying, especially to somebody that's an adult. Yeah, that's what's going to happen when you raise a kid. I'm pretty sure when I was 7 years old, I was annoying as hell to my parents. I mean, hell, I've heard stories of some of the things that I did as a child, and I was bad as hell, so imagine if I had powers. So yeah, of course there are going to be moments where I'm mischievous, you don't listen to your parents and things like like that. Or your parents try to tell you things to warn you and you completely go against what they say. And so as the series went on, I started to connect with Dion and enjoy Dion's character a little bit more. And some of the acting issues that I had problems with started to get better as the series went forward. Maybe I just got used to it. I don't know. And that's not just Dion that I felt that way about. I felt that way about Alicia Wainwright's character too. Not so much as Josiah Young, but I didn't really feel that much for her character. Again, some of the acting choices that she made, some of the choices that she made as a character. There's a mini fight that Pat and Nicole have where Mark and Pat were best friends in this series. Pat didn't like Nicole for Mark, and he originally called her a train wreck. And honestly, I was like, yeah, I kind of feel that way. Like, this woman is a train wreck. And some of the choices that she made throughout the story, I wasn't that much of a fan of. I wasn't really that endeared to her character, honestly. And so because of that, it made me just rethink about one of the main issues that I had when the casting was announced for this series, and that's the issue of colorism. For those of you that don't know, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description box below, but when Raising Dion first came out as a comic book series, Dennis Liu also released a little mini short film for the series, and in that series, they had two darker skinned black actors playing Nicole and Dion. And even in the comic book series, Nicole and Dion were much more browner than they were in the show. And when they announced the casting of Nicole and Dion as Josiah and Alicia, it was very obvious. A lot of people noticed that they were significantly lighter than A, the comic book, and B, the short film that came out. And a lot of people were wondering why that ended up being the case. And yeah, you could say they were the best actors to come into the room, but it's a problem in Hollywood where they seemingly always go for the lighter skinned actor than the darker skinned actor, because they always say the closer you are to whiteness, the better you are. And that's a trope and a trend and a thing that black people have been going through in Hollywood and even in their own community pretty much since slavery, where darker skinned people are treated way differently than lighter skinned people. I could go on a rant about colorism and its problems within the black community and Hollywood and all that other stuff for ages, but that's really not what this video is about. But I felt like I had to touch on it. And so because of my lack of connection to Alicia Wright's performance, that's something that I was thinking about. And then on top of that, they introduced a character named Kat, who's played by Jasmine Simon, who is Nicole's older sister. And they don't really look that much alike. Kat is way more dark-skinned than Nicole is. And on top of that, she was a better actor. Like, I was like, why wasn't she cast as Nicole Warren? That's not to say Alicia Wright was terrible. That's not to say I didn't end up liking her by the end, but it's something that I thought throughout the first couple of episodes of the series. And on top of that, the show is very tonally inconsistent. It feels like they tried to go serious at one moment where it talks about the racism and then the struggles that Nicole goes through with the fact that A, she's a single mother, and then also trying to find a job and things like that to be able to support Dion, while on top of that, trying to find ways to mask his powers and escape the government. And then on top of that, you had scenes dealing with Dion and wanting to impress his friends, and then the goofy nature of being a kid with powers, and the tone just felt all over the place. And some of the story beats felt incredibly too predictable. Like, there's a character in this story, if you watch it, you're gonna automatically know. Like, the moment they introduce him and there's a certain thing that they do with this character, I was like, oh, that's gonna be the villain for season 2. And then you get to the end of this season and then they show, oh, this is gonna be the villain for season 2. And it's like, well, duh. I'm not really surprised at that. With that said, though, like I said, I started to enjoy the series more as the show went on, and I would like to see a season 2, but they need to tighten up the writing and directing a little bit more, and obviously the acting too. But like I said, the acting got better as the show went on. Maybe the actors just needed to warm up inside their characters. But yeah, I still would like to see a season 2. And the thing that endeared me to the show the most is, like I mentioned, the fact that, you know, you have a black kid being the one that's gonna save the world, the one that everybody's relying on, the one that everybody's gunning for, the one that is the chosen one. Again, that's not something that you get that often in sci-fi fantasy films. I mean, I mentioned this before, like, take something like Black Lightning on the CW. That's the only show black people had where black people were the leads and center of their own supernatural superhero stories. And now you got Raising Dion. So now, out of a total of all the shows that are on television about superheroes and magic and stuff like that, now you got 2 that are about black people. Not even just in front of the camera, but behind the camera too. Like, a couple of the episodes were directed by Seth Mann, an African-American man. One of the episodes was directed by the original creator of the comic, Dennis Liu, who is an Asian man. You have black women behind the scenes in the show. And so that's another reason why I wanted to support this show, because of all the people of color both in front of and behind the camera. But overall, my rating for Raising Raising Dion, I would say it broke even and it made a little bit of profit. In layman's terms, that's about a C+. So anyway, have you seen Raising Dion? What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so that you're alerted every time I post a new video. And also tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time.